Real Virginia is produced by the Virginia Farm Bureau. Farming, it's all good. Visit our website at vafarmbureau.org.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay, Atlantic to Appalachia, home in my heart always.
Hello everyone and welcome to Real Virginia, a show about Virginia agriculture and the people who produce all of the wonderful products we enjoy.
Find out what it takes to bring history to life at the State Fair of Virginia. It's berry season. We look into how you can grow your own blueberries, and we take you to the land of sorghum and learn why this grain is growing in popularity.
Welcome back everyone. We're here at Mount Olympus Berry Farm in Caroline County where the blueberries are ready to harvest, and we're going to have a little bit more about small summer fruits later on in the show. Let's move on down the road in Caroline County a bit to Meadow Event Park, which is the home site of the State Fair of Virginia. Folks from all over the state will flock to Doswell to the State Fair to celebrate everything there is about agriculture. And it's also an opportunity for them to celebrate our state's rich cultural heritage.
As one of the first colonies, Virginia's a state steeped in history, and for hundreds of years leading up to the 20th century, agriculture was central to our culture and our economy. The coming of electricity and changes on the farm economy after World War II mark a major milestone in agriculture as most Virginians moved off the farm. That's why Don Frederick and his wife traveled the state, bringing their huge collection of antique machinery and historic kitchen tools to fairs and festivals. This year they are returning to the State Fair of Virginia's Heritage Village.
It's just, it works and operates, and it's so different than today. It's a marvel to see how some of this stuff worked back then when they didn't have the electronic computers and everything had to be done purely mechanically. And it's very, very interesting to me.
And interesting to the thousands of students that attend the State Fair every year and stop by Heritage Village to see how things used to work on the farm and at the home place.
And it's very surprising how the 13, 15, 16-year-old children, it catches their eye because, I know what they're doing, but I don't understand how they're doing it. And just because everything is so different. Some of them come over and actually get in there, and you can see the light over their little forehead going bing, like, oh my goodness gracious, that just totally flabbergasts you and them both. And you know they're tuned in to what you're doing, or at least they're going to walk away with something.
Frederick's exhibit includes everything from a 1930s washing machine to various kitchen tools. He has working antique motorboat engines and early engines from tractors and even a very cool lawnmower. Along with the Frederick's exhibits, fairgoers can see early farm tractors, antique engines, a shingle mill, and a sawmill at the Heritage Village exhibit. Exhibitors plan to keep the displays fresh from year to year and keep the agricultural history of Virginia alive for those coming to the fair.
My view of the State Fair is it's an educational thing. I'm more into the 4-H piece part of it, the horse show piece part of it, the tractors and that stuff, a lot more than the Ferris wheels and roller coasters. And this is, to me, an integral part of what we try to present to the public.
Heritage Village will be located in a new, easy-to-find location in the Harvest Landing area, alongside Young McDonald's Farm and the Meadow Pavilion. For more information on tickets and other 2013 State Fair Virginia events, go to statefairva.org. Reporting in Hampton, I'm Sherry McKinney.
Commercial agriculture began in Virginia in 1614, when the first tobacco crop was shipped from the Jamestown settlement. After farming became profitable, it spread along the James River and other colonial outposts as the colony and the new nation grew. The first crops included tobacco as well as corn, beans, and squash, crops introduced to the English settlers by Indian tribes. Today there are more than a dozen farm museums scattered across Virginia celebrating the agricultural heritage of the Old Dominion, as well as exhibits like Heritage Village at the State Fair of Virginia.
Hi, today we're going to talk about blueberries from the ground up. Please stay tuned.
We are at the top of the Shenandoah Valley in Winchester, Virginia. My grandparents started the farm in 1906. My dad started the dairy in 1948. I came back to the farm in 1977 to help my dad and my mom to run the farm, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my entire life. Shannon is my youngest daughter. Jackie is my oldest daughter. They have such wonderful work ethics. Shannon is my right-hand person here. She helps with the milking. If I need something, at the drop of a hat, she's here. It's so wonderful to have daughters that have that sense of responsibility, sense of country, sense of love for the farm, and I know they will always be here to carry it on. I'm Kitty Huckman-Nicholas, and I'm dedicated to dairy, my cows, my milk, and my land.
Conservation is not a new word for us. As rice and soybean farmers, both my father and my grandfather invested in water conservation. Their goals are now my goals: to use water efficiently in producing crops. Clean water is important to our family, our farm, and every living thing in the watershed.
Farm Bureau and America's farmers, caring for the future.
Blueberries like these are a tasty treat during the summer, but as Chris Mullins tells us, there are some easy steps you can take to help your blueberry bushes flourish from the ground up.
Hi, today we're at Virginia State University's Randolph Farm and we're talking about blueberries. Blueberries can be a great crop for the home gardener. They're delicious to eat, the fruit is wonderful, has some health benefits, and also the plants are very nice to look at. They're ornamental and they're attractive in the landscape. We're doing work here looking at different varieties and how adapted they might be to different parts of the state. There are basically two types of blueberries. There's high bush types and there's rabbit eye types. The rabbit eye types are more adapted to the coastal plains, the Piedmont areas of Virginia, and also the high bush, especially the southern high bush. But the northern high bush do very well in the mountains, the mountainous parts of the state of Virginia. So as you're thinking about the different types of plants you're going to buy and grow, consult your hardiness zone maps and talk to your local garden center about which varieties and types that they have. Now when you're planting, you have to think first of all, most importantly with blueberries, is pH. The second thing is pH, and the third thing is pH. pH is very important to the growth of these plants. So you need to adjust that, or you need to at least get a soil test before you plant. Find out what your pH is. If it's 5.3 to 6 to 7, you need to make some additions to this soil to make it a little more acidic. Things like elemental sulfur can be added to the plant row. Also things like pine bark, either shredded very finely like you see here or more coarse, can be added to the plant row. In fact, most commercial growers, when they make their plant beds, they incorporate pine bark within the bed to really help make that soil pH lower, around 4.8. So when you're thinking about planting your blueberry plants, it's a good idea to get 2 to 3 year old plants that have been grown in a nursery for a few years. Those plants are going to be 10 to 18 inches tall and are going to survive a little better in your landscape. And when you're planting those, they can be planted on raised beds. In general, blueberry plants need good drainage, and putting them on beds really helps with that. They don't stay wet and the plants grow a little better. So you can see here there's a bed, a nice tall bed. When you'd plant this, you'd take it out of the pot, plant it right even with the soil line. And that first season that you put your blueberries in, they really need a lot of water. They need to be irrigated through a drip irrigation system or hand watered or through a soaker hose or something like that, depending on how many plants that you have. They'll do very well. They do need that water, but then later on you can slow down on the watering. Now when you first plant these, you probably wouldn't put any fertilizer in. Maybe 3 to 4 weeks after you've planted them is when you would apply a little bit of fertilizer, maybe a few tablespoons of a slow release fertilizer or a complete fertilizer around the base of the plant, and that can be watered in. And that'll be sufficient for quite a while. These aren't really heavy feeders and they don't need a lot of water, but they need it at the right time. Now this mulch that you see here is a pine bark mulch, and pine, as water moves through it, it lowers the pH of the soil. And as we talked about before, pH is very crucial to these plants, to their growth. Well, one of the things you have to think about when you're growing blueberries is your competition. The competition for fruit. It's you against the birds. So home gardeners really need to think about how they can keep the birds from eating all the fruit on their bush. And one way is to use bird netting, surrounding the plant with some type of woven bird netting that'll keep them out, so the fruit will be just for you. So when you're thinking about buying blueberries, always consider the hardiness zone, where you are, and the varieties that you're going to try to buy, and make sure that they'll fit in your location. For more information about blueberry production, please consult your local cooperative extension office. For From the Ground Up, I'm Chris Mullins. We'll see you next time.
Up next on Real Virginia, Kendra Bailey Morris makes a terrific dish using fresh blueberries, coming up on Heart of the Home.
The tradition returns at the State Fair of Virginia, September 27th through October 6th at the Meadow Event Park in Doswell. Come enjoy all the thrills, from the midway rides and games to every kind of fried food imaginable. Funnel cakes to corn dogs, there's something for kids of all ages. Like live music, we'll have music every day and night at the fair, including a host of national acts. Horse shows and exhibits can be seen every day at the fair. Young McDonald's Farm returns and continues the tradition of the baby ducks, cows, sheep, llamas, and Goat Mountain. And don't forget the Dairy Birthing Center. The fair is a great way for school kids to visit Virginia's largest outdoor classroom with 12 SOL certified agriculture and forestry exhibits. Hundreds of students from all over the state will compete for scholarships and state bragging rights by showing their prize animals. Come see the state's largest pumpkin and watermelon. It doesn't matter if you're 1 or 101, there's something for everyone to enjoy. It's a Virginia family tradition that promises memories to last a lifetime. To learn more, go to statefairva.org.
So you've picked your blueberries, or you've picked up a pint of blueberries at your local farmer's market. So what do you do with them now? Kendra Bailey Morris has a great recipe using blueberries and pan-seared salmon fillets in the Heart of the Home.
Hi, I'm Kendra Bailey Morris, and welcome to the Heart of the Home. We are here in Sur La Taub's beautiful kitchen today, and what we're going to be working with on this particular afternoon is blueberries, fresh Virginia blueberries, which are totally in season now and absolutely wonderful. Most people think of blueberries and they immediately go straight to desserts. They want to make pies, which are delicious. They want to do pancakes, you do muffins. But for this particular recipe, we're going to do something just a little bit different. I'm going to do a seared salmon with a fresh blueberry salsa that is accented with a little bit of basil. And it's really, really delicious. It's a different recipe, but I think you'll enjoy it. So what I have here is some really beautiful salmon. You could use any type of fish. You could certainly use any fish from Virginia, a white fish, or some fresh poultry, some Virginia poultry if you like as well. And what I'm going to do is just gently salt this a little bit. You don't need too much salt. And I'm going to give it some black pepper. And it's really important when you're working with fish to salt both sides. And I like my salmon in particular to have the skin on it. It's very, very healthy. And I'm going to sear this in a cast iron pan. And that's going to give it this really, really nice, crispy, delicious outer coating. And just a little on the outside. That'll help draw some of the moisture out. And I have a cast iron pan that's already heated here with just a little bit of canola oil. And you want to use canola oil in a cast iron pan versus olive oil because this pan gets really, really hot and your olive oil might burn. So I'm going to put these skin side down into the pan. I'm going to set this aside. Meanwhile, I'm going to start making the blueberry salsa. And this is a salsa, like I said, that could go on just about anything, but it's really, really wonderful with fresh fish. And I've got some fresh Virginia blueberries that have been chopped up very loosely. You could leave them whole if you want, but I found if you're going to have it as a salsa, they kind of tend to roll around the plate. So you don't necessarily want that. So just give them a rough chop. And I've got some green onions. And I've got the green tops, and I've got the white tops. I've got a little bit of jalapeno pepper. You could use serrano pepper, and peppers are in season in Virginia as well this summer, and they're really wonderful. Some fresh grated ginger, which is grown in Virginia as well. and some lime juice, about a tablespoon or so, or a teaspoon rather. And I've got some fresh honey, and that's going to help balance out a lot of the more piquant flavors that are in here, like the lime juice, for example. It's all about balance. And balsamic vinegar. Again, the honey will balance this out as well. And I'm going to mix this together like so. Now I've got some fresh basil as well, and basil grows in Virginia. I have it in my garden, and it's actually very easy to grow in pots, which is the way I like to grow it, when I can keep the bugs off of it. Now to chop fresh herbs, especially like fresh basil, just crinkle it up in a little ball like this. It's very, very easy to do. And I'm just going to give it a mince. And I've got about a 1/4 cup of the basil here. All right, that's done. I'm going to throw that in. You could add other herbs if you like. I think cilantro would do really nicely. That's a very typical salsa flavor. But I really like the freshness of the basil in this. And it's so fragrant right now. It smells amazing. Finally, always taste for your seasonings. And I'm just going to add a little bit of salt. Not too much because I have lime juice in there. And a little bit of black pepper. About a 1/4 teaspoon or so. And this is done. Now at this point, you could probably make this upwards of a day ahead. The longer it sits in the fridge, the better it's going to taste. All those flavors are going to marry together really nicely. You just cover it in some plastic wrap. A couple hours ahead of time is best. And then just kind of bring it back to room temperature before you serve it on top of your fish, because you don't want it to be too cold, because it will kind of shock the flavors there. Meanwhile, I'm going to finish cooking my salmon, and this is sockeye salmon. You could use any type of salmon that you like. I'm going to crank it up a little bit. I'm going to finish cooking these, and then in a few minutes we're going to put them in the oven at 400 degrees, and we're going to let them fully cook all the way through. In the recipe, I don't state that you can flip them over, but if you like that sear on the other side, you certainly can. So I'm going to finish this, and we're going to put them in the oven, and we'll be right back. All right, and these are done. And as you can see, I gave them a little bit of a flip, and so they have a nice crust on the outside. That's totally up to you. They will fully cook regardless in the oven. Be very, very careful when you're working with cast iron in the oven. Extremely hot, so you want to be aware of that. So what I'm going to do here is take a couple of pieces. And we're going to plate these up. Very, very easy. And you can see how beautiful that crispy skin is. Like I said, it's really good for you. And it really, really is nice when it gets that crust. And I'm going to spoon some of our blueberry salsa. Right here on the plate, you could put it on top, however you want to do it. Really smells amazing. A little extra basil for garnish. And there you have it. We have a pan-seared salmon with a blueberry basil salsa made with Virginia blueberries. I'm Kendra Bailey Morris. Let's get cooking.
Recipes from the heart of the home can be found on the Virginia Farm Bureau website at vafarmbureau.org.
Strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, blueberries, grapes, and gooseberries are all examples of small fruit crops. These small fruits grow best in warm and sunny climates like Virginia, and harvest season for each is scattered throughout the summer and fall months. Many farms that specialize in small fruit production are located around Virginia. Most of them are pick-your-own operations that you can visit to harvest the fruit when it's fully ripe and enjoy right away at home. Many berry pickers preserve their treasure in jams and jellies or simply freeze them for a treat once the summer fruit season is over. To find a nearby Pick Your Own farm, go to pickyourown.org or visit the Virginia Department of Agriculture's Virginia Grown site at virginiagrown.com.
Corn and soybeans are major crops in America and in Virginia. And of course, there's wheat and hay. And then there's sorghum. As Patrick Dunn reports, this grain with a funny name is making its mark with farmers all across our state And one reason is that it can withstand the hot, dry summers in Virginia.
If you're driving through southeast Virginia this summer and see an unusual looking crop, it's probably grain sorghum. Sorghum is an ancient grain crop more commonly grown in Africa and the Middle East, but it's making a comeback in the sandy soils of Southampton County. That's thanks to a cooperative effort between the hog processing company Murphy Brown and local farmers.
We started a grain sorghum program. We've now made a market, we've created a market for grain sorghum to help the farmers have a place to sell it. We're the largest producer of hogs in the world. We don't grow enough grain on the East Coast to feed all the animals. So every bushel that we can grow, here in southeast Virginia and not import from the Midwest or some other region of the world, those are dollars that will stay here. The farmers win. We win by not having to pay the high rail freight on those. So it's just a great crop for, I think, all of us.
Grain sorghum is actually a well-known crop in other parts of the U.S., ranking third in grain production. But it went out of favor in Virginia decades ago when corn offered better profit potentials for farmers. Virginia Cooperative Extension agent Chris Drake knows the science behind this alternative crop. Like corn, sorghum is a member of the grass family and often looks like a short corn stalk with a heavy head. Its principal advantage is that it requires much less water than corn to make a good crop.
There's a multitude of reasons why we're growing grain sorghum in Southampton County and in the southeastern part of the state of Virginia. We have some marginal soils that are maybe not as well suited to corn as they really should be, and this crop fits a niche. It's a good rotational crop for our area. It's a fairly drought tolerant crop, much more so than corn is. So with grain sorghum, hopefully we can expect a profitable yield on more marginal soils that in the past we would not be able to do that.
As with any new crop to an area, some farmers have been hesitant to try it. But with expert advice from Virginia Tech and North Carolina State, as well as a guaranteed purchase price from Murphy Brown, sorghum is sprouting up around the county. The hog processing company has set a purchase price of 95% of the market rate for corn for all sorghum sold to it this year.
Have grown grain sorghum a full years ago, like one year, and we just wasn't much market for it. So we back growing it for Murphy Brown, and it's been looking pretty good. Keep the worms out of it and don't have a good crop.
Pest control is another reason introducing this crop makes sense.
We have some weeds that have become resistant to Roundup. We have Palmer amaranth and now ragweed and some other species that have become resistant to Roundup. Roundup is used in most of our corn acres, soybean and cotton acres. Therefore, that has been introduced into just about every acre in the area. Well, introducing grain sorghum where you do not use Roundup and you use herbicides such as atrazine and some others, you also break up that herbicide rotation. Plus, grain sorghum, once you mow this down and incorporate it back into the soil, you have a lot of organic matter, which builds up soil health. And it's particularly important on this sandy type soil to incorporate organic matter there. It helps with your nutrient holding capacity and also the productivity of your land. The more organic matter you have, generally speaking, the more productive the land will be.
So growing sorghum can be a good choice for the environment, a profitable crop for farmers, and will reduce shipping costs for Murphy Brown's hog operation. A win-win for local farmers and Virginia agriculture, and a new crop to look at as you drive through the countryside. Reporting from Southampton County, I'm Patrick Dunn.
That's going to do it for this edition of Real Virginia. We are so glad you could join us to help us celebrate the bounty that Virginia has to offer. Whether it's in your home, your garden, or your landscape, we're proud to say that this is Real Virginia. So for everyone from the Virginia Farm Bureau, thanks for watching. Make it a good month.
Home will always be Virginia, between the Blue Ridge and Chesapeake Bay.